everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. My name is Ritesh Osta. I'm one of the top rated Fiverr Pro in multiple category, including GTM engineering category. Let me introduce you to one of my friend and my colleague, Sean. For them today, also known as Sean. He's a SaaS and AI tech leader and a co-founder of multiple different tech companies, and he brings deep experience in building scalable SaaS platforms, AI-driven product development, and engineering-led execution for B2B growth. So when it comes to building GTM engines for B2B sales, there are only three critical steps that we follow. And those three steps are very simple steps. The first step is the lead generation. The second step is what we call as a dark funnel. And the third step is the personalized multi-channel outreach. So that's pretty much it. This is what we do. It's very simple in principle. It is, of course, in execution, it depends on the use cases and the technology complexity and like so on. But in principle, we follow a very simple three-step. All right. So the first step is, of course, the lead gen. Okay, now, these are classical lead gen that has been around for a very long time. So if you talk to any digital marketing company or B2B lead generation company, they also do pretty much the same stuff. And we also do that, right? If you want to generate more traffic and if you want to generate more leads, obviously the traditional channel has been paid ads like social ads, PPC, display, video ads, and like so on. Okay. Many companies, especially the B2B enterprise scale, also rely a lot on partnership, right? So they have specialized partner program, and then their growth strategy is to create more partners. So for example, if you are an enterprise software company like SAP or Oracle or Salesforce, they rely heavily on their partner program. That means the partners join them and they go ahead and implement and resell their product and services to their own customer. In that way, these companies, they grow. Okay. The other ways of growing for many B2B teams is to trade shows and conferences, right? They go to different trade shows, conferences, and they generate leads. Many of them, they follow social media like LinkedIn and thought leadership and Twitter and like so on. And many of them, they engage on niche communities, right? The forums and communities and like so on. And many, for them, they rely on G2 and Clutch and, like listing sites, right? And then we have the good old email outreach and LinkedIn outreach and cold calling. That means, you can just blast a bunch of emails. You can, reach out to a lot of people on LinkedIn. You can do cold calling, So I think these are traditional method, which is still effective to a certain extent, and a lot of companies are still using. Okay. So if you are a large scale B2B team, or if you are somebody who is looking to hire agencies, you will either find digital marketing agencies or lead generation agencies, and they will practically fall under one of these categories, right? So they will either say, okay, fine, they will do paid ads, or they will help you with inbound leads, or they will help you with outreach. And some of them, they will, talk about things like SEO and content marketing and like so on, right? So this is how the traditional digital marketing was happening for B2B for a very long time. Okay, but things are changing a little bit. So what we do is we take two steps more than that, and two very crucial steps. Okay, so we do all of it, not all of it. We do many of the things that I just spoke about. Okay, but on top of that, we also do what we call as the dark funnel strategy. Okay, so let me explain what dark funnel is. So, suppose you are a service provider, right? Say in a specific industry like automobile or heavy engineering or warehouse or whatever. You are a B2B service or a product provider. There are people out there right now as we speak who might be looking for your product and service. Okay, they are searching for it. But the thing is that they are not aware of you. They are not aware of possibly they are not aware of your existence or the existence of your product and services. And you, on the other hand, you are also not aware of the need of your prospect, which are out there. So in a way, those people are in dark about your presence and you are in dark about their needs, right? So how to bridge the gap? The bridging of gap can only happen if they are somehow able to find you and you're able to come in front of them. So for example, if they are doing some Google search, then you run ads and then you come on the top, and then that's how they are able to find you. But by the time they find you, possibly for many companies, it's a little too late. Let me explain what I mean by that. By the time they are going Google search and you are coming up with your ads, there are five other competitors are also coming in the ads, right? So it's kind of a red ocean where there is a small set of audience who is actively searching something, whether it is in social media or Google or PPC or other places. And then all the companies, all the service providers and product providers, they are just fighting for the same pie, right? So it becomes kind of a red ocean strategy. Let me tell you, what if there is a need in the market and your prospect is looking for something, and then you are able to reach out to them before your competitor does? That's the question. And that is where the intent and the signals comes into the picture. Whenever anybody is looking for any help, right? For example, I want to buy a new car. Okay, I will possibly start talking to my friends and families. I will start posting out on social media. Or if I'm, buying a piece of new software, then possibly I will start going to G2 and Gartner, and I will start reviewing comparing the softwares which are there. What if you can detect those signals in real time? And in real time is the actual keyword here. That means as soon as possible. And then you reach out to your prospect before your competitor does. So in that case, you have an advantage, right? You have an advantage of reaching out to your prospect before anybody else does. And that is where, the dark funnel strategy plays a key role. So let me explain what are the dark funnel strategies we follow for our customer. So when it comes to intent and signal, these are some of the very common intent and signals that we follow, right? The first one is, of course, the web visitor, right? If somebody comes down to your website and they check out your product and service, there's a good chance that 98% of the time, they will just simply leave the website without doing anything, right? For most B2B enterprise and sales teams, this is a common ratio. That means there is less than 2% website visitor to form fill submission. That means for every 100 people, there will be less than 2 people who will actually fill up the form, the contact us form or whatever, or sign up form. And 98 of them will just simply leave, right? So these are low-hanging fruits, and you just lose it. And for many companies, they are spending thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring those traffic on the first place, right? They might be running ads, they might be running, large-scale SEO, content marketing, PR, whatnot, to bring that traffic. But unfortunately, 98% of the time, those traffic simply leaves, right? But what if now you can track and detect 50 to 60% of the time who those people are and which companies they are working for, right? So now we have that technology called as reverse IP tracking technology, by which you can basically track the web visitors and also decipher their identity. If not the personal identity, at least the company level identity, you can decipher at least 50 to 60% of the time. So this is super important, critical signal that we track. The second is job post and hiring, right? So suppose you are a IT service company or you are an IT manpower provider, right? And you are giving network engineers and data engineers, and you are outsourcing those people. So for you, the job posting signal is a very important signal. For example, you are sending IT network engineers in Berlin, right? And you are operating in Germany. What if you will be able to figure out all the companies in Berlin or in Germany who are posting jobs regarding network engineers and IT, data technicians and like so on, right? If the company is posting this kind of job, that means that company falls under your ICP. That's point number one. And the second point is the company has a need. That's why they are posting a job. Now, if you get that signal in real time, and that's the keyword, as I said, if you can get the signal in real time, that means if they post a job today, and if you get to know today, then you can reach out to the company and say, hey, you know what? You're looking for somebody to help you out. We are an IT manpower supplier, and you can outsource this job to us, or we can send some people from our side. You can start the conversation, right? But the idea is to reach to the prospect in real time. That means if they have posted the job today, and if you are reaching out to them after 3 months, it's not going to make any sense, right? So that's another very important signal that we track. The third signal that we track is, of course, the cold outreach engagement. So you are blasting a bunch of emails, and you don't have the team member to sit and go through all the list and what level of engagement is happening. It's too much of work, right? If you're sending 50,000 emails, then somebody has to sit and go through who is opening the email, who is clicking, and all of that. There's a lot of data, and manually it becomes overwhelming for many companies. But now, thanks to AI agents and AI and automation, we can automate a lot of stuff, right? So for cold outreach engagement, we can automate a lot of stuff. Okay, and then we can pass those signals as to who is actually engaging with our cold emails or LinkedIn messages, right? The fourth signal is existing customer management. That means for many companies, and this is the most overlooked segment when we work with a lot of B2B companies, your CRM is the number one source of new prospect for you. Mind it. So if you're operating in a certain industry, for example, if you're operating in warehouse or logistic industry, you have a bunch of customers. Maybe you are operating in US, right? You are operating in certain region like Arizona, and you have a bunch of customers. Now, that bunch of customers are the people in CRM who have actually dealt with you, who have actually done business with you. What if I tell you, you can find similar companies in another state like California or New York or Washington, whatever it is? You can find similar companies and then you can reach out to them. That is a no-brainer. When I talk about it, it's a no-brainer, but I'm surprised by how few the companies that I talk to, they use this strategy. That means the customer match, right? So there are a lot of API providers here. So you can call up multiple different APIs. And this session is not about technicalities. So I'm not going to get into the technicalities of how to do things. Maybe we'll create another session. But the idea is that we can, find similar companies which matches your existing customer base or your prospect base, and then you can reach out to those companies and you can close the deal. You can start the conversation, right? The fourth signal is, of course, the comparison. The competitors, they're running ads. They are searching for your competitors, right? So you can also run ads on top of the competitors, right? And then that's a very important signal. If they are looking for your competitors, then possibly they are looking for your product and services, right? Important signal. Then mentions and alert, right? So now we have wonderful tools like Trigify and others where we can do social listening, and you can, listen to certain keywords, certain topics, certain people. Even LinkedIn Sales Navigator now is providing these kind of services. So you can social listen to people or companies or industries and then see what they are talking, and based on that, you can build your account list, right? Super critical. Okay. Another very important signal is industry specific data. So we basically find out and source different APIs and we get different data like OSHA, EPA, chemical safety boards, industry report, SIC code. So there are different industry specific data which is out there. There are data providers. You have to call up the APIs and we get those data, and based on those data, we build our list, account list and company list, right? This is super important if you are in a very specific industry like automobile, heavy engineering, and like so on, right? Healthcare. Okay, so there are a lot of data providers. So we have worked in a lot of projects where we source very specific industry related data, for example, healthcare as an industry, and then we source those data, right? We also provide with aggregator data. Then we have the tech adoption like Shopify, Stripe, HubSpot, Salesforce. There are API providers like Builtwith and others which can provide us this data. That means if you want all the companies who are using Shopify in Arizona, I can source that list and then I can, reach out to those companies in real time. Fundraising, M&A, mergers and acquisition, this data is also available. And this goes on. And we have also worked with a lot of engagement and behavioral level data. For example, apart from external signals, I also want internal signals. That means there are external signals is good, but then there can be internal signals as well. For example, I have an enterprise SaaS product, okay, and there are a lot of users who are coming and they are signing up for, say, for example, a free trial, but they are never upgrading. That data is residing within my own system, like CDP and CRM and data warehouses and web analytics data, product analytics data, and like so on. So this data is residing in my system. I can pull out that data and then I can feed it to my campaign, right, as a signal. For example, in last 3 months, all the users who have come, who have signed up for the free trial, but they never upgraded to paid plan. That's a use case, right? So I can build that list, I can build a contact list, and I can feed it back into my system, and I can run a campaign around that. So we work with a lot of engagement and behavioral platforms like WebEngage and CleverTap and others also to pull out this kind of data. And then there are other data sources also, for example, chat and email, ads engagement, LinkedIn engagement, and like so, right? I can go on and on in here, but the idea is, for you to find out what different signals can work for your industry. So once you start getting the data from different signals, once you start getting the signals, we can start making the account list and the contact list, right? We can start building the list, right? And how do we do that? We use different automation tools. Okay, these are the different automation tools: Leadfeeder, Clearbit. We also work with identity data. We work with lead enrichment data like Clay and Apollo, Six Sense, Phantom Buster. We work with those tools as well. We work with process automation tools like Clay and N10 very regularly, as well as we also create custom application. The idea is to use all these automation tools and platform to gather the data from different signals out there and to start building the list. Say the list can be, in Airtable, or it can be a HubSpot, whatever the application is going to be. So we start building the list, right? And then we start enriching the list. For example, I want all the companies in Berlin who are technology companies, who have data centers, and who have posted a job for data engineer, correct? So I can, using different signals, and one of the signals is going to be job posting. The other signals can be, data provided like Apollo or Zoom Info. I can merge all of this and I can start enriching it, right? Eventually, I will get a list saying that, okay, fine, these are the set of companies in Berlin who matches all the criteria, and I keep enriching that information. Now, once all the information is done using these platforms and tools, then I will build the list. And then I can start the outreach, right? I can run email campaigns saying that, hey, you know what? You are a technology company. You fall under this category. You have posted a job around that. For your IC, for your use case, we have a very, very specific solution. And we can solve the problem without you having to go ahead and hire 5 different people and pay. We can just send our team and they can do the job in a fraction of the cost, right? We can do LinkedIn outreach. Right? We can even do cold calling, and we have AI calling tools and like so on, text. So whatever the channel is, we can do multi-channel outreach. And we don't limit ourselves to just email or LinkedIn. We also run hyper-personalized ads. For example, all the company list and the contact list that I'm building continuously, I can then integrate it to say LinkedIn audience, LinkedIn ad audience, Google ad audience, Meta ad audience, and I can start a customer match ads on LinkedIn, Meta, or Google, or all of them, right? That means I reach out to them on email, I send them a LinkedIn message. At the same time, I run ads only for those companies or those contacts working in those companies. That's it. No more spray and pray. You don't have to, run ads for the entire Germany and then, create a funnel around it. No. So instead of a funnel technique, this is what we call as the signal tech, right? The dark funnel tech, in which we don't create a funnel like a, top layer and then we keep coming down. Okay, from there. Here, we start bottom up. We look for where the signal is. In the dark funnel, we start looking for where the signal is. It's almost like you wearing a night vision goggle, right? And you start listening to the signals which are out there. And then based on the signals, you create a sniper strategy. You don't create a funnel strategy. You create a sniper strategy where you actually, reach out to those companies and you understand the need, and then you create a personalization at a level that none of your competitors are doing, right? So this is what we do in context in terms of process, right? And this is the 3 steps. That's pretty much it. In principle, it is very simple. It is only in the execution that things becomes a little complex time to time. But if you need this kind of solution for your business, of course, we are here. And I'm going to talk about more on the use cases as well. But before I get into the use cases, I just want Sean, my friend, to come up and share his thoughts as well a little bit.
Yeah, so we have learned the process that you have mentioned, Ritesh, that is completely new. That is not something not a lot of companies are following right now. My questions are, when you're talking about the dark funnel, right, and then you are getting these job posting signals, I'm sure that there can be cases where there are some false positives, right? There can be situations that we are getting a lot of data. Maybe not all of them are relevant. So how do you ensure that we are only working on the relevant data? Yeah,
Obviously, when it comes to signal, not all signal is going to be relevant to you, right? For example, if just because a company is posting a job doesn't mean that they are going to hire you for your service, right?
right,
But there's a but. If I reach out to 5 companies, then there's a good chance that all 5 companies will say no to my service, right? They will say, no, 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 it's okay. I will hire
right,
somebody. You don't have to bother me. It's okay. But what if I reach out to 50 companies? What if I reach out to 500 companies?
mhm,
Then there's a good chance that some of them, they will come back and say, hey, you know what? Looks like I need your help. Make sense? So
yeah,
in a way, you are
yes,
creating a funnel, but that funnel is not like a top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. This is not a standard funnel building technique. This is a ICP building technique based on signals and intent, right? So you
right,
continuously build your contact list and account list based on signals, and then you basically qualify your uh, buyer committee, your account list based on the signal rather than guesswork, right? The traditional
okay,
marketing and lead generation says, okay, fine, my target audience is finance and the CFO. Now find all the finance, companies in US and find all the CFO working in US, scrape the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, get the data from Zoom Info, and then build a list for 100,000 CFO, and then, start with that. That is what traditional B2B lead generation was all about. But what we are saying is you don't have to build like a million contact list and then create a funnel around that.
true, true,
Instead, look for signals. Maybe there are 5,000 companies, or maybe there are 500 companies or 500 people who are sending out signals. It's much better to reach out to those 500 companies rather than reaching out to say 100,000 companies. Does it make sense to you? Right? So there will be false signals, there will be false positives, but you will be much more precise, especially when we're dealing in enterprise and specific industry, right? If
right,
you're selling engineering plastic, right? Then what's the point of running an ad for the entire US? How many companies will be there who will buy engineering plastic food? You're not selling, like a moisturizer or a talcum powder, right? Make sense?
right,
So you have a
right,
very specific set of audience and they have a specific need and they will only look for things when they need it. They don't look for your service all year around. So it's super important for you as a company in B2B to look for the signals, right? I hope I answered the question here and I'll move
yes,
on to the next
great,
one. Okay, now I'll just quickly share my screen and I'll show you some of the stuff that we can show you some of our own data, obviously. Okay, so for example, I'm just sharing my HubSpot. So this is how a typical web visitor intent looks like, right? As you can see, there's a company called Innofied. Okay, it has visited my website in the last 7 days, right? Makes sense? And it has done, I can even check what they are doing, right? What kind of page they are visiting, what they are doing. So for example, if there is a company who is just checking out my blogs, then they are not my prospect, right? But if the company is checking out the contact us page, makes sense, right? Or they are checking out, my pricing page, then they might fall under my ICP. Does it make sense? So behavioral data plays a very, what they are doing also is very important, right? So first you need to identify who they are, and then you need to identify the behavioral data, aka what they are doing, right? And based on that, you can also streamline your contact and account creation, right? So for example, if this company can fall under my ICP, and then once it falls under the ICP, I can track the intent signals, okay? And I can add it to the CRM, right? I can just go ahead and I can add it to my company list and I can enroll to a workflow. Make sense? Okay, I can even, auto add to AI agents and like so on that I've already built. And I can find the people working for this company and I can, even run LinkedIn outreach or email outreach or even run ads. Make sense? So this is typical web visitor intent. Then there is a research intent. For example, if companies are researching around certain topics, okay, for example, if somebody is looking for digital marketing service in, say, Nevada or specific state or specific geography, I can set up that research topic, okay, and I can find who the companies are, and then I can create a reverse funnel around that, right? Make sense? Then we have also built some of the AI agents. One of the AI agents I can just show, for example, job signals, right? So if somebody is posting jobs around that, and I am an IT service provider or IT manpower provider, then I would want to know who is posting what kind of jobs, and if they are posting a job which is relevant to me, for example, if I am an IT service provider, then I want to know who is posting a job for network engineer in Florida. Make sense? In real time. So if you can build, so this is an AI agent, for example, it is building the list in real time. This can continuously run whole day along. And then based on the list, I can go ahead and do the outreach. I can even give them a call, right? Or maybe I can run a, cold call AI agent, whatever I want to do. Make sense? So the idea is to get those signals and then keep building the list and then keep, reaching out to those people and see what actions they are taking. And then based on the action, then you push it back. If they take enough action, for example, they have posted a job, I have reached out to them using cold email, and then they have visited my website. That's 3 signals I've got. Okay, that means they are now qualified to be pushed into HubSpot or to be pushed into Slack for my sales team to give them a call. Make sense? All right. So these, I mean, I can go on and on in terms of use cases. I'm going to talk about a couple of more use cases as well, but I hope that you get the point. Make sense? So let me talk about a couple of more use cases. Okay, so these are some of the use cases. I mean, the use cases are plenty, but of course, due to lack of time, I want to just stick to 3 or 4. So one use case I've already talked about, which is hiring signal. Just now I talked about, right? Okay. So hiring signals is buyer intent. Very important use case. So the companies are posting jobs, then you build a list of company, the account list, then you do a role mapping. That means you find the decision makers within the company. You do the intent scoring, which is like a lead scoring, but we call it the intent scoring. That means how much they are active. Okay. And then we can go ahead and create a HubSpot trigger or any other trigger for them. Even it can be a reply.io or a clay, whatever it is. HubSpot is something that we use. So we use HubSpot, but you don't have to use HubSpot in order to do that, right? Okay. And if you do HubSpot trigger, you create a workflow, you send an email, you send a LinkedIn message, you run an ads, and then if they take more actions, then you involve, push it to a Slack and involve your SDR to do a manual follow-up. Make sense? Okay. Right. So job posting can reveal operational intent. Okay. So I just showed you the example just a while back in terms of how we do that. The second is very commonly used use case is signal-led ABM for early buyer detection, right? So account-based marketing. For example, you make a list of 100 companies who is part of your ABM list. Make sense? So these are your ideal customer, and they are like 100 companies in Berlin, and they are into, say, heavy engineering or warehouse, whatever, right? You make a list of those companies, and then you start looking for intent. You can use Sales Navigator, you can use job posting signal, you can use web visitor signals, and you can use merger and acquisition signals, tech stack signal. For example, they have just recently bought Salesforce, and they have added Salesforce to their tech stack. That means if you are a Salesforce provider or Salesforce, service provider, then you can reach out to them saying that, hey, you know what, we have just taken Salesforce. We are a service provider. We have been doing it for the last 20 years. We can help you with so and so. All right. And like so on. So there are some fancy use cases that we have created for our customers, and I can go on and on here. But the idea is that you keep those account lists, the ABM list, say a set of 100 companies, 200 companies, 500 companies, and then you keep listening to it. Okay. Even says LinkedIn Sales Navigator is now providing very, very good tools to listen to those signals as to what those signals are doing, right? So you look for signals, you put them into HubSpot scoring, you score them, and if once they reach a certain score, okay, for example, every time they visit the website, you add 10 points. Every time they visit your G2 profile, you add 20 points, right? Every time they are posting new jobs, okay, you add another 2 points, right? Make sense? Once they reach, say, 50 points, in terms of scoring, then you trigger a workflow automation. You send an email, you run an ad, and then once they engage with your ad, then you push it to a Slack, and then your sales team will start calling them up. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So signal ADM is a super critical use case for us. We work with a lot of B2B large scale enterprise teams, and we help them with their ABM. And their ABM is not just spray and pray, it is signal led, right? So the impact is that you are a first mover, you have higher replies, shorter cycles. That's the first mover is the number one impact, right? I mean, in B2B, especially in the enterprise side, first mover advantage is a real advantage, right? Because the competition is fierce in many ways. Another use case is the ABM 2.0. We came up with this term called ABM 2.0, okay, at scale, right? Okay, that means, you can, if you have a sales rep, a BDR team, they can only do so much. They can only reach out to 5 to 10 accounts on a single day. And if you want to expand the ABM on scale, then you have to hire more people, more sales, more cost, bigger team, and all of that, right? This is a very common use case. So what we can do now is, thanks to AI and automation, we can scale that. You don't have to scale your team. You can keep the number of people same. You don't have to scale the team as compared to the operational scale, right? So you can reach out to 1,000 account with a very small team, something that was impossible 10 years back, right? So you can reach out to a lot of accounts. You can create segmentation which is AI generated. For example, AI can take a decision whether you can create more segments around the accounts. AI can also take a decision as to who will be the best buyer persona within those accounts. And AI can also take a decision as to how you can form a buyer committee, right? You can train the AI, continuously train it, saying that, hey, you take a decision as to who will be the best buyer committee, who can fall under the buyer committee, right? Typically, if you leave it to your sales rep, it's up to their experience and their skills to decide. The CEO and the CFO and the IT manager, that's pretty much it, right? They will do some guesswork. And if they have more experience, then they will do a better guesswork. But with AI, the limitation of the sales team is now out of the equation. Now, even if the sales team is not very experienced, they are not very qualified, even then they can perform optimally. If you have got 5 salespeople, they can all perform optimally, equally as each other, right? In many ways, right? So persona logic, personalization, ad scale. So you can scale even with ads for that matter, right? And email and automation like so. So AI and automation is playing a very, very crucial role on ABM 2.0 at scale, right? So 1 to 1,000 scale is not now much faster, easier. You can create a consistent messaging. You don't have to rely on the experience and the intellect of the sales team to create better messaging. The AI can do that job very well, and it can lower the cost in the process, right? So that's another use case that we come across all the time. Then this is another use case, which is multi-threading enterprise deals with precision ABM, right? Precision ABM. That means you find the champions and the influencers and the technical and the and you build the buyer committee, right? For example, if you are reaching out to all the companies who are posting certain type of jobs or who have taken Salesforce as a software in last 3 months, make sense? So suppose they are taking Salesforce as a software, they fall under logistic industry, and they are in Europe, right? They falls under. So you can automate this process continuously. The AI will keep looking for these companies, based on intent signals. Okay, it will keep building the list, and then you can even train AI to find those champions and influencers to build your buyer committee. Make sense? In real time, without involving a lot of human beings in this activity, right? So you can train the AI saying that, fine, if a company has recently taken Salesforce as a software, if it falls under this particular industry, if it is in Berlin or if it's in Germany, qualify. So, you can create an automation, an AI agent, which will qualify that. Okay. Then take a best decision for this particular company. Okay. Who can form the buyer committee? Who will be the champion? Who will be the influencer? So instead of your sales team guessing, the AI can do a better guessing, in many ways, right? And consistent guessing AI can do in terms of creating a better buyer committee, right? So you can form the committee, and then you can create a very personalized outreach and ads, right? And you can do all of that through automation, and you can basically increase the pipeline velocity. So the impact here is speed, win rate, lower risk. Okay, so you can definitely create better pipeline velocity with this kind of technique, right? So I can just go on and on this one. Okay, and I can keep talking about the use cases, but Sean, I believe, do you have any questions on this one?
Yeah, my question is like what you are showing, and most of the cases there are multiple processes, multiple touch points associated, and there are so many things to be done. So my question is it specific to enterprises only, everything that you are showing, or can this be also implemented for startups and the mid-sized companies or the small-sized
Absolutely.
companies?
Absolutely, it can be. In fact, we are living in an era for the first time, because I've been into this for last more than 10 to 12 years now. And this was a game of large enterprise. Unless you have a large, business development team and very smart people and millions of dollars of budget, it was very hard to do enterprise sales. 10 years back, right?
Right.
So it was difficult for a small scale startup to break into the zone of the SAPs and the Salesforce and whatnot. But now, thanks to these fancy tools and AI, there is a democratization that is happening. So all the stuff that I'm talking about, in fact, most of our customers are not enterprise. They're very
Okay.
small scale companies. Some of them, they are startups. Okay. But the reason why I'm saying enterprise all the time is because the principle is of enterprise, but now it can be applied to even startup. Okay. There's another reason why startups and small scale businesses can also implement that, because the data is not guarded anymore, right?
Okay.
So that's another very important key. But now data
Right.
is cheap, correct? You call up an API and you can get the same data for a fraction of cents, correct? And you can build those applications in no time using Anytime and Clay and other areas, right? So the
Right.
cost is continuously reducing. So now there is a democratization when it comes to B2B sales system. So I
Okay.
sincerely
Okay. Makes
feel
sense.
that now we are living in a level playing ground. And this is not just for enterprise. I'm using the term enterprise because we work with a lot of enterprise team, but we are also working with a lot of startups and small scale businesses.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense.
So yeah, I think I'll just share my screen one more time, and I'm going to just wrap this up. So why modern GTM engineering? You have to understand that we are living in a new reality, right? People are using less and less PPC. Earlier if you control PPC, you control 80% of the market. For example, most of the search was happening through Bing and Google. That's pretty much it, right? Or maybe a little bit of Reddit. But that era is gone. Now most of the search is happening through AI, right? ChatGPT, Gemini, and different sources. So now there are multiple different sources for people to do their search. So relying on one channel is not going to be an option anymore, right? So the old GTM was all about campaigns, run Google ad campaigns, run LinkedIn ad campaigns, and intuition, guesswork. Do some guesswork. If you can come up with a good campaign, create a good funnel, that's good enough. And you just wait and watch and be reactive, right? So you run a campaign and then just wait. You blast an email for 50,000 people and just wait. But new GTM is not about the campaigns. It's about systems and signals, right? So you build a system that can detect signals, and you are proactive. That means you're not waiting for things to happen. You're not running ads and then just waiting for people to come, click in an ad, come down to your website, fill up a form. And then your BDM sales team are just sitting around. And the moment, tongue, ching, there's a new lead coming up in Salesforce, then they start, their work of the day. That game is changing now. Now the new GTM is all about building the right kind of GTM system hearing the right kind of signals, tracking the signals, and being proactive. So now the new sales team are proactive sales team, right? They are reaching out to the customer many times, even before the customers are reaching out to them, right? Many times. Make sense? So that is what the journey of modern GTM engineering has been. So how GTM engineering works? Okay, I think I've talked about it, in this session. The start is not campaign, the start is signals, right? Signal, then context. Okay, so I can listen to multiple different signals. Okay, fine. This company has taken Salesforce. This company is posting Salesforce engineers jobs. That means he's looking for Salesforce implementation or wants to do some sort of Salesforce customization. This company is falls under this particular industry, right? Logistics as an industry. Okay, then you can say, hey, you know what? We are a Salesforce service provider. We have an experience in logistic industry. We have been doing it for the last 15 years. Here are the case studies. We have worked on similar use cases like yours with other logistic companies. Okay, and we have done this kind of Salesforce implementation. Now, with that context, when you reach out to them, then that will be truly personalized, right? Because the most at most what I've seen personalization is hi first name, your company needs this, so I want to. That is the most level of personalization that most of the B2B teams have been doing for many years now. That's the most, high first name, then something company name, and that's pretty much it. That is personalization for most of the people. But that is not contextual personalization. So what I'm talking about here is contextual personalization, right? So with the contextual personalization, then you take action. Okay, that means you run the campaigns, you reach out to them, you run ads, you run emails, and then you generate the revenue, right? So this is the core loop of how GTM engineering works, and it is very different than the traditional funnel-based technique. Super different. The whole thought process is different. Many of people, they come from an old school thought process of IDA funnel and past funnels and like so on. But this is reverse engineering, right? The whole thought process has been changed. Okay, so this is how contextually it looks like. Capture the signal, the website visitors, the ads, the product, other dark funnel signals. Look for activity, look for behavioral data. Once they are engaging with you, what they are engaging you with, right? If somebody is coming and checking out your pricing page, that account is more important than somebody who's just coming up and checking out your blog page, right? So the activity is important, and based on that activity, you combine the signal, and then you start building the list, and then you start building the context, right? The context is something that you need to build. So you qualify them for your ICP, you look at the intent, you look which stage that they are in, and then you create a sales ready personalization and outreach to those, right? So intent capture, and then the context setting is what is the key component in this whole GTM engineering. Okay, the next step is, of course, activation. You run the campaign, you give them a call, you send them a LinkedIn message, right? So you run different kind of rules, and rules is not something that you need to do manually anymore. You don't have to set the rule. You can just train the AI, and that AI will take the rule. So you can just say, hey, AI, if the person is visiting my pricing page, then send this message. If the person is not visiting the pricing page, then send that message. Or maybe don't send any message for that matter, right? So the rule building was very hard, like 5 years back. Okay, you have to manually, painstakingly, you have to create every single rule, but now you can just train AI. And the AI will take the best case decision and set the rule and do the contextual activation. When I say activation, I mean running all the campaign, ad campaign, email campaign, LinkedIn message, and like so. And also the final thing is measure, right? You can even use the AI and automation to measure things, the pipeline velocity, the deal velocity, and like so on. So you can just measure and see whether this is actually impacting your pipeline or not, right? Because eventually you're doing all of it so that you can impact your pipeline. And if your pipeline is growing, that means you're on the right track, right? That is how we understand that we are on the right track. Okay. So I think that's pretty much it. We already talked about use cases. Sean, if there's any last word you want to add quickly, we will do that and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, no, everything that you have mentioned, Ritesh, that makes complete sense, and we have learned so much throughout the webinar. Now, I just have two questions because this is something I'm sure that our audience would like to understand. First of all, a company, thinking of any company and from any industry, suppose a manufacturing industry, a smaller company doing, probably getting business from different word of mouth and some ads, right? Maybe local ads. And then what you have shown, it may look very complex to them. Okay, so my first question is, how complex is this to implement even for a smaller company? Okay, because otherwise all the tools that we have mentioned and all of them have their own pricing, and also overall getting an understanding of the type of cost associated of implementing such a system and the type of results they are expecting, what type of expense they can have, right? So that is my first question. And then the second question is, what they have been getting as a result, right, so far with ads, Google ads, or some other way of doing it. What is the results they can expect if they implement this type of system, like in terms of, I'm talking about in terms of the revenue or something. I'm just asking based on the real use case, the type of companies you are already working with, what results they have seen after implementing such type of system.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So the way we work is, and then there are different thought process and school of thought when it comes to GTM, right? Go to market, right? So the way we work is we go with use case first approach. That means we'll have to first create a use case. For example, if you are an IT service provider, then your use case can be, hey, find all the job posting. Then based on that, build the company list, then build the account list, and then build the contact list, and then reach out to them via LinkedIn and email, right? And if they engage with my LinkedIn and email, for example, if they are engaging, right? They are clicking on link, they're downloading the case study. Okay, if they are, then push that contact and the company data to Slack or to HubSpot, right? And then from the HubSpot, your sales team will start sending manual emails, right? Saying that, hey, you know what, we are providing this and that. So eventually, your sales team's pipeline is increasing. Make sense? Right?
Yep.
And it is proactive pipeline. I'm not talking about reactive pipeline. I'm not talking about inbound. I'm talking about outbound pipeline. But this pipeline is much more qualified in terms of intent as compared to just sending blast, email. Many of the sales team, they are just, simply sending 100 emails every day and just expecting some miracle to happen by then. And then they're going home. Make sense? So the idea is to first create use cases. Right? The other use case can be, hey, for a company, a G2 visit can be very critical, right? What if, I can track every G2 visitor, okay, and I can push the account details into my HubSpot CRM, and then I can quickly enrich the data, right? Who are the decision maker? I build by a committee in real time. The AI can do that. Make sense? And then I can send an email in real time. So if in the middle of the night, if there is a G2 visitor at 3 a.m. in the night they came, then by 3:05 a.m. they will get an email. Make sense? And for a G2 visit, it's super important because that person is visiting other profiles as well, your competitors. Right. And if they come 6 o'clock in the morning and they send the first email and they give the call, then you're possibly lost the deal. Make sense? True. So here the real time is super crucial, and also the use case is super crucial. So to answer like what this is going to cost is, this is going to cost is what your use case is going to be, right? And when you define your use case, you can define 2, 3, 4 use case. You can build things very quickly. Thanks, now we are living in an era of no code, low code automation. Right. So you can build an agent systems. With us, we build things in weeks. We don't take months. And you are a technology person yourself. I think you can answer better how fast we can do that. And it is not going to be super expensive, right? For some of the customers that we work with, we are doing things what is now costing hundreds or thousands of dollars, which otherwise would have costed hundreds of thousands of dollars 10 years back. Makes sense?
Right. Yeah, technology has surely been improved a lot. Like all the agents that we are building, specifically, now so many agents are already out there, plus what we have already built, right? We are able to reuse as much as possible, and we are able to connect all these agents together to create multiple multi-agent workflows, which is continuously improving itself via the feedback loop, right? So whether it is email communication or it is calling, right? Wherever we are replacing manual efforts, we are saving a lot of money. So whatever money we are putting in, ultimately that is much lesser than the money we are saving.
All right, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, Sean, for this session.
Thank you so much, Hitesh. Bye.